Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
I'm about to introduce you to Professor Rachael Peters from the Murdoch Children's Research Institute. I was talking to. Is that
Hello,
you, Professor?
Yes, it is. It's Rachel. How are you?
Hello. Jeremy Cordeaux here, and Les Elekes is at the dining room table from which we are broadcasting. And sitting over here is Tony Denton as well. So if you hear other voices, you'll know who you're talking to.
Okay, thank you.
I was fascinated by the research that you've done there at the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, which is a wonderful organisation. You do some fantastic things.
Thank you. It's a wonderful place to work.
Well, this research into allergies, tell me the breakthrough nature of it. You've somehow connected air pollution to things like children's allergy to peanuts. How does that work?
Yeah, that's correct. So at the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, we've been conducting a study called the Health Nut Study since 2007, where we recruited over 5,000 babies when they were 1 year of age, and we've been following them as they grow up. Mm-hmm. And when we see these children, we conduct allergy tests on them, so a skin prick test or perhaps an oral food challenge. So the study was originally designed to understand how common food allergy was and what the risk factors were for it. We then linked all our Health Nut Study data to measures of air pollution that were provided by another researcher. So in this particular study, we've measured two types of air pollution, PM2.5 and NO2, which I can explain to you in a little bit more detail if you need.
Yeah.
And by looking at the levels of air pollution, by comparing the levels of air pollution that children were exposed to throughout their infancy and childhood to the rates of food allergy, we found that babies who were exposed to higher levels of air pollution were more likely to develop a peanut allergy. And then this peanut allergy was also more likely to persist in children who'd been exposed to higher levels of air pollution across childhood.
Right. Does it go for things like asthma and shellfish allergies, or is it strictly a connection between pollution and peanuts?
Potentially. In our particular study, we just looked at peanut allergy, egg allergy and infant eczema. And when we found the association was just present with peanut allergy, but not egg allergy or eczema. However, there are certainly lots of other research, particularly with regards to asthma, that have linked air pollution exposure to the development of asthma. And I believe there are also some studies showing its relationship with hay fever as well. Shellfish allergy, I can't answer quite yet because we haven't had a lot of shellfish allergy in our cohort. Shellfish allergy tends to develop as people get older, and we've used data from children up to 10 years of age. So it's something we would like to look at in the future.
I mean, Professor, with airborne products and products that surround us in our everyday lives, Jeremy and I were talking about this earlier today, and considering what we at our age experienced in our youth, there's a lot more petroleum synthetic products in the environment than there used to be. I mean, modern homes, motor cars.
A lot of plastic.
A lot of stuff that even the clothes we wear, we're not wearing traditional, from the earth type cottons and wools. We're synthetic type clothing. What's the connections there? I mean, some of these things, the hydrocarbons that are in these synthetics are brutally toxic in some of their components. So how does that affect our human beings and our lives into the future?
Yeah, you raise a really good point. So if we go back, maybe 50 years, food allergy was incredibly rare, and whereas these days we see that one child in every classroom has a food allergy. Yeah. So the rise in allergic diseases has happened over several decades and at around a similar time to increasing urbanisation and industrialization. And this is what has led researchers to start to look to the environment to see what's changing in our environment that might be contributing to the risk of allergy. So you've mentioned quite a few different things there about the environment that we haven't specifically measured in this study. We've only looked at air pollution exposure, but a lot of those factors that you mentioned, they have been shown to be toxic to the body or irritants to the body. And this can then disrupt the body's normal immune system and normal immune functions and lead to allergic disease. So some of those other factors that you mentioned could potentially be related to the development of allergies. I just can't specifically say yes or no because I didn't look at it in this piece of research.
Well, in terms of air pollution, again, we're talking about brake linings, and they used to contain asbestos, which is now known to be a major hazard to human beings. I mean, there's got to be lots and lots of things that are in the air now that weren't there before.
Well, there are things that they now call forever chemicals, like PFAS, which I understand is in the water system, in the drinking water system in Sydney. It obviously gets into the groundwater, and there's no stopping it from moving around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been linked to some allergies, perhaps asthma. I'm not sure if anyone's looked at the direct link between that and food allergy, but I'm concerned about what happens in our environment as well and how it's going to affect, us and future generations as our children grow up.
I mean, Professor, what does, when people feel unwell or unwellness state, how do they recognise, in your view, that they have an allergy to something? I mean, sometimes you can be sleep deprived or over-energetic in a sport and just feel off. But in terms of an allergy, it's probably more a lifetime issue than just an occasional issue, or it can be occasional maybe.
So the type of allergy that we've been researching is IgE-mediated food allergy, and this is a type of allergy that is a result of immune-mediated mechanisms. And this is the type of food allergy that will cause reactions quite quickly on exposure to the food, so sort of within minutes to within an hour, and will be symptoms such as hives or raised red itchy lumps, vomiting, swelling of the face, and potentially anaphylaxis. So that's the particular type of allergy that I've been working on. And the most common triggers of that allergy are peanuts, eggs, tree nuts, cow's milk, soy, and wheat. The term allergy can be used in different ways as well. So sometimes people will have an intolerance that they can call an allergy, but it's not strictly the type of food allergy that we've been measuring in this particular study. So I guess if people were concerned that themselves or their baby or young child was having a reaction to foods with sort of quite immediate symptoms, then they need to go and see their doctor to get a referral to be diagnosed.
Is there any connection between maybe the sort of cleanliness that we have in society? Maybe we're too clean with our children. When I was growing up, we literally went out and played in the dirt. I can't remember any of the kids around me as I grew up having an allergy to anything. Is there any work done on that?
I don't think some of those allergies were actually able to be identified back in those years.
Well,
which
maybe
is part
not.
of the problem.
Yeah.
Which then leads me to the question, Professor, is this scenario now just going to get potentially worse and worse in time?
I might address the first question about the environment and the cleanliness. So you've raised another fantastic point. So our research and so as other studies have shown that children who are exposed to more sort of germs and microbes in the environment. So, for example, we measure this by whether families have got pet dogs or whether they've grown up with older siblings. they actually have less rates of allergic disease. And the concept behind that is it used to be called the Hygiene hypothesis, but now we prefer to use the term the microbial exposure hypothesis. And being exposed to a variety of microbes and germs in the environment, particularly when you're young, is really helpful for the developing immune system.
Yep.
And it helps the immune system to develop in a healthy way. Whereas if you're not exposed to many germs and microbes, then your immune system can actually skew towards being this allergic phenotype, which then overreacts to, what should normally be a harmless thing, such as a peanut protein.
Yeah.
So I think the rise in food allergy that we see, it's actually really quite complex. So we know that the environment plays a role in terms of microbial exposures. Diet plays a role, genetics plays a role, and now we're seeing that air pollution does. So we often say that this rise in allergies potentially has something to do with the modern lifestyle.
And Professor, particularly now subsequent to the COVID pandemic, there's been a lot of, I think, research and commentary made how important vitamin D is to protect and to boost the immune system. You mentioned the immune system, which is the system that obviously helps us cope with all these things. So in your view, is vitamin D an essential, something that needs to be pushed harder?
Vitamin D has many important roles in the body. So particularly with regards to bone health or immune health. In fact, every cell in the body has vitamin D receptors on it. With regards to allergy, there is certainly some sort of observational or ecological evidence to suggest that vitamin D is important. So we've seen in some studies that people who live further from the equator and therefore have less sun exposure and less vitamin D levels are more likely to develop allergic diseases. There are higher EpiPen prescriptions, so that is an emergency medication used to treat allergic diseases in states in America that have less UV exposure. In our Health Nut study, we've measured the vitamin D levels in babies when they were 1 year of age, and we found that babies who were deficient in vitamin D were more likely to have a food allergy. Now, I just want to stress that this is all observational data and patterns, so it's difficult to actually say whether treating somebody or a baby with vitamin D will prevent them developing an allergy. So we need clinical trials to do that. And there is a large clinical trial that was recently completed in Melbourne, and we're just waiting for the results of that to be published. And then we'll certainly be able to provide a more definitive answer as to whether vitamin D supplementation could be an effective way to prevent food allergy.
Are you familiar, Professor, with this work that they're doing at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute on the thymus and the role that the thymus plays in keeping you away from the things that are likely to affect you or hurt you?
No, I'm not familiar with that research at the WEHI.
Yeah, interesting. What about the idea that if you've got a peanut allergy, you simply introduce the child very slowly to peanuts, and over a period of time, you fix the problem. Do you believe in that?
So that's an allergy treatment called oral immunotherapy, which has been conducted in clinical trials and is used in some countries overseas.
Yeah.
I just really want to stress that must be done under medical supervision, because children can have very serious reactions to peanut. If it's something that you do at home, you're potentially putting your child at risk of having a severe allergic reaction.
Yeah.
So when it's done under medical supervision, they start with very, very, very tiny doses. And when you increase the dose, it's also done under medical supervision. So it's a new treatment that's only recently been introduced in Australia. I'm talking sort of in the last month. I think there are 10 hospitals around the country who are beginning to offer it to babies with a peanut allergy. So It's certainly something that can be done, but I just really want to stress that it needs to be done under medical supervision, not something that families should try at home when they have a child with a known peanut allergy.
It sounds risky. It certainly does sound risky.
Yes, so if they are undergoing this treatment, they'll receive lots of education and support from an allergy specialist and potentially a dietitian or a nurse, and they'll also be instructed on what to do if they have allergic reactions and how to treat them. And then they obviously need to report these reactions back to their doctor as well. So, yeah,
Rachael, thank you for your time. Wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on the research.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate your interest.
All the best.
Thank you.
Professor Rachael Peters, Murdoch Children's Research Institute.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.